I was raised in a Christian home. I went to school for 2 years at Christian school and all that. I was raised, we were raised Southern Baptist, and then we went to non-denominational, but my daddy beat me all my life. I mean, physically. I was the oldest kid. He'd be mad at his work, he'd be mad at my mom, he'd be mad at my brother, everything he took out on me. He'd come home from work, and if he was mad, he'd go in my drawers just to look for something if my socks wasn't rolled right or something. And he physically just beat me. And that always put a lot of hatred, meanness in me. So I left home at a very young age. I lived on the streets of Miami, living however I could live till I got old enough. I had actually gotten some trouble from doing drugs. And I went before a court judge, and he was going to put me in prison, and my dad asked if they would let me have a choice of either doing prison time or going to the military. In order to go to the military, they would have to drop all charges. So that's what we did. So when I was 17, I went into the military. My permanent duty station was in El Paso, Texas. Well, in El Paso, Texas, I got mixed up with this motorcycle club out there, and I was running dope from Mexico into El Paso. And what always brought me into that was because it was kind of like the family that I was looking for. And a lot of the people that end up in these clubs and stuff are people that don't really have a good family home or nothing. They just want to feel loved, and that's what they get in these groups, you know? And there's a unity there. I mean, these people die for each other. I ended up getting busted, and at the time, the club got me out, paid my bond, and then my parents bought me a bus ticket. That's how I ended up here with Georgia with nothing but the clothes on my back. I left everything behind. Of course, still riding motorcycles, riding Harleys, and got mixed up with the wrong bunch again. And next thing you know, I was doing drugs again. Well, it started off, you know, once a month, and it started off twice a month, and it started off with just a weekend thing. Next thing you know, it turned into a few more days a week. Before you know it, it turned into a daily thing. Well, I got to where I had a daily habit of the methamphetamine. And at the time, I was getting the stuff for free, so I felt like it wasn't taking nothing from me and my family. Needless that I realized is all the things that were falling amongst me that I had no clue of. It's like I had blinders on. I was a sorry dad. I mean, I'll be the first to admit. I give her everything she needed, but I wasn't there when she needed me. You know, I was a sorry dad. I wish I would have known how to be a real dad. I didn't have a real dad to learn from. I always knew that I didn't want my kid to hate me as much as I hated my dad because of the way he physically abused me. So I never laid my hands on her, you know. I did the opposite things that I felt like I wasn't getting to her. But, you know, when you have a drug addiction, unfortunately, it comes before everything. And I can't take back. You know, I can't get those years back. If I knew the changes that it made in me, as far as my brain-wise, the way I think, everything, I would have never done it. Because there's things in me that'll never reverse again, and it'll never be the same. God started convicting me of it. I started getting miserable. Didn't matter how much money I made, how much drugs I did, I was just miserable. One day I just said, enough is enough. And it was obvious I couldn't run my life the way it needed to be run. So I learned that if I can't do it, who else do I have to turn to run my life but Christ? I actually isolated myself to my room for a year. I had to get away from all my friends that I've rode Harleys with for 20 years and hung around for all these years. And the fact of being on methamphetamine, it intensifies everything. You get to sweats. You isolate yourself. You're just miserable. You don't want to talk to nobody. You want to hide. You just want to get in a corner and hide. You know, you don't care if you die. You don't care. You know, it's like your world's come to an end. My only hope was God. Period. And I prayed to God. I said, God, if you'll get me through this, I will live the rest of my life for you. But Satan the whole time was still tugging at me, tugging at me. It felt like the closer I got to God, the more Satan was fighting me. And the only way that I found it worked for me to keep me going, am I going to let Satan win this morning, or am I going to let Christ win this morning? Well, I decided I'm going to let Christ win this morning.
Yes, you can continue to be with us today in this service. That you renew our hearts, our minds, and our bodies.
Miracles didn't start happening in my life until I learned to put God first. I learned to let go and let God. The closer I get to Him, the more you look out for things that you never noticed before that God does in your life and the people around you. I was always stressed all the time, and a lot of the drugs used to relieve that. Now, I don't do drugs, and what relieves that is the peace of mind that I get from Christ, from the miracles that He showed me.
The weight has been lifted, though I strayed so far. Your mercy draws me near. It's in Jesus I have found. My debt has been paid, though I've gone so far. Your grace finds me here.
Well, then I started getting tattoos of God, not only for me to have to look at constantly to keep God at the head of my forefront, but also I've had more opportunities to witness, and it shows people I'm not ashamed to be a Christian. No matter where I go, I have it all over me. My joy comes from giving rather than receiving. It's funny how it's the opposite of how I thought joy would be, and it is totally opposite. I guess that's why I was always miserable, because I never had joy. And I'm still a work in progress. I'm far from the man I'm gonna be, but I'm a better man than I've ever been. And I give God all the glory and all the honor, because it wasn't me. My whole thing is, I gave it to God. I said, God, here I am. Do with me what you will.
'Cause when I seek you, I will find you. It's in Jesus I have found. The weight has been lifted, though I've strayed so far. Your mercy draws me near. It's in Jesus I have found. My debt has been paid, though I've gone